Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching ETV English News with Zanusam Binyam Gitana. Thank you for joining us once again. To stay tuned. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed reviewed this morning of wheat clusters in the Dugda and Bora Warada of the Oromia state. The wheat clusters in the two districts is quite promising, the Premier said. The Prime Minister stated that the new Ethiopian year brings closer Ethiopia's goal of wheat exports. According to the Prime Minister, the East Shoa zone of Oromia alone aims to harvest 7 million quintals. The Prime Minister further underscored that the increased mechanization will yield greater results in the wheat farming sector. And a scholar chastised the West and the US for turning a blind eye to the atrocities being committed by the terrorist TPLF or speak out against its aggression. Tedros Zaudu, the advocate of mixed identity, told ETV that this emanates from the West's undying desire to clamp down on Africa with a colonialist spirit. Goshima Lesau has compiled the following story. Take a look.
Since the beginning of the war, some Western media outlets and their government opened coordinated media war campaign on Ethiopia in an apparent attempt to hoodwink the world into believing that Ethiopia was the aggressor. Talking to ETV, Tedros Zaudu said some Western nations and the US opted to condone and abet rather than condemn the TPLF's aggression.
I feel like the Cold War is still going on, but we want the US government or the West to come and examine the empirical reality. They have the technology. They don't even need to come here to examine. They can see from their using their modern technology who started the war, who is the aggressor, who is the victim, what kind of damages were made, and then they can all examine that from space, and then they do have the technology to examine that. Yet they refuse to do that.
Tedros underscored that this complicity is a reflection of the West's belief that a force like the TPLF will be an ideal choice to put together a puppet government so that it agrees to their whims and demands. The West, he says, still toys with the idea of colonizing the East Africa region, particularly Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia.
Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, they have yet to have colonial masters. And then this lens should be used to examine the geopolitics. You know what I mean? Because other part of Africa, they are still somehow entangled with the British Empire, with the French Empire. They are somehow entangled with that. But Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, they have yet to be dominated officially with the colonial master.
He also explained that some Western media warfare and propaganda campaign emanates from the embedded desire to pursue its vested interest on Ethiopia.
The West and their government and their media don't really care about our election, the last election. Don't really cover it. And then they ignore it, basically, because that speaks volume. Your will and wishes don't matter to us. What matters here is our self-interest, not your self-interest.
It is to be recalled that recently the European Union issued one-sided statement on Ethiopia.
And in related stories, the Ethiopian embassy in Belgium is dismayed by the statement issued in 14th of September 2022 by the spokesperson of the European Union External Action Services. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that the spokesperson continuously chooses to ignore the blatant violations committed by the TPLF on various occasions, including that of opening the third round of conflict and abusing humanitarian aid and fuel to advance military escalations. The statement is also misleading by pronouncing that TPLF took an initiative for peace, it said. It is a well-known fact that the government of Ethiopia has been taking various tangible measures, including a unilateral humanitarian truce since March 2022 and naming a negotiation team under the auspices of the African Union, believing that it would create trust and ultimately paving the way for the commencement of negotiation, the statement indicated. While rejecting the selective verification by the spokesperson of the European Union External Action Services, the ministry reiterated the unwavering commitment of the government to peacefully resolve the conflict in the northern Ethiopia. Welcome back. You're still watching ETV English Language with Anusam Binyam Gatan, and now step into another news. The Ethiopian National Defense Force and the Air Force are putting up strenuous efforts to ward off any attack by the terrorist TPLF clique. The Ethiopian National Defense Force is taking all the necessary measures against the terrorist TPLF in various parts of the country so as to protect the sovereignty of the nation. We have the following story. Take a look.
An article published on the Borkana website shedded light on how the TPLF was revived with the complicity of the West, and it depicted how the Westerners used aid organizations and various means to gather TPLF from where it was scattered and make it return to Mekelle. And just from curiosity, the article asks about what was the Western and Biden administration's role as the TPLF regrouped and re-emerged for more rounds of war in June 2021 and August 2022. The article, which recalls the benefits that the terrorist group lost after being removed from power, raises the following points as an example. The TPLF continued to conspire and regrip Ethiopian politics when it lost its hegemony over most military and economic power. In addition to military encouragements, the terrorist group organized a cyber media campaign to portray Ethiopia as a weak and unstable nation. All this was done with the hope of regaining the power it had lost in the federal government, and it recalled the so-called preemptive strike in November 2020, which was coordinated with an international cyber campaign, #Tigray Genocide, a popular TPLF social media campaign, and a cyber war designed to shape the public perception of the conflict. The terrorist group has of late been accused of using humanitarian aid as a weapon by the Ethiopian government, but no one has able to hear it. The Ethiopian director of the World Food Programme once said the following.
Let me reassure you that our teams go out in the field. And by the way, Claire Deville, whom I know a number of you know, she spent more than a week in Tigray, going to distribution sites, meeting the beneficiaries. Not only meeting, but also capturing, discussing with them, making sure that, yes, these are the people who are the beneficiaries, these are the people who are receiving the food. And this is the food that they are taking home. And that later on, the food is in their home. So we do everything we can to ensure that the people who need it are the people who receive it, and that those people can take then the food back to their homes. So this is being done, and it is a continuous process that we have always done. I mean, as you know, food assistance is not, over decades, this has always been a question that has been raised. So obviously, I think we've gotten used to dealing with that. So I can assure you, the food distributions are done to the people who need it, and they take the food home.
Since the beginning of the conflict, the US and the EU have not equivocally condemned the TPLF. In several instances, they could have pressured the TPLF to bring peace, but deliberately choose not to. The article also strongly criticized the Biden administration and Western nations for being dead silent to TPLF atrocities and antagonizing the democratically elected Ethiopian government, adding that they are setting Ethiopia on the course of disintegration, which will no doubt have tragic and far-reaching consequences.
Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. The first news was scholars related with the Ethiopian West, and now stepping to another news. The Ethiopian National Defense Force and Air Force are putting up strenuous efforts to ward off any attack by the terrorist TPLF cliques. The NDF is taking all the necessary measures against the terrorist TPLF in various parts of the country so as to protect the sovereignty of the nation. We have the following report. Let's take a look once again.
After the TPLF's brutal attack on Ethiopia's army outpost in Mekelle in November 2020, the Ethiopian National Defense Force has been taking all the necessary measures to protect the sovereignty of the country. The National Defense Forces and the Air Force are paying untold sacrifices to restore sustainable peace and stability to the nation. The Ethiopian Air Force recently downed a plane carrying weapons for TPLF. The plane route to the terrorist camp in Mekelle had encroached on the country's airspace via Sudan. The airspace has also violated the airspace rights of the country.
መሬት ላይ በተተከሉ እንትኖች የመለየት ስራዎችን ሰራን ከዛ አየር ላይ መሆን የሚገባቸውን ትዕዛዝ ተሰጠ
We identified all the present dangers with our ground forces, then retaliated by giving critical order for measures. We shot down the airplane at 9:30 p.m. Our units on the spot confirmed that the plane has already been downed. Our stance on this is crystal clear. No one can use Ethiopian airspace without the explicit permission of the country. This is a great lesson to others too.
The sky is ours. Logic.
According to Yilma, the Ethiopian Air Force is on alert to monitor the nation's airspace 24/7. He told ETV that the Ethiopian Air Force is also working with the Ethiopian National Defense Force to take all the necessary measures against the TPLF and secure the well-being of the nation. After the said round of attack launched by TPLF a few weeks ago, measures have been taken and thousands of TPLF fighters have been placed under the arrest by the Ethiopian National Defense Force at various war fronts. According to Madasa, the TPLF's latest appeal for a peaceful negotiation is only tactical, adding that it came only after the TPLF's heavy loss in most of the battlefronts and it meant to buy time.
That was Hautam Ashagre for the report. Now moving to a similar story. Canadian journalist and historian Jeffrey Pierce said some individuals who are openly supporting the TPLF terrorist group are still bent on twisting the truth to their purposes. Pierce urges the international community to discontinue following fake news spread by former U.S. Pentagon official Michael Dobbin. The criticism against Dobbin came in a latest article by Pierce entitled, "We don't negotiate with terrorists except when we arm them." Tigist Yonisa has compiled the following story. Just take a look.
While there's a steady tide of shoddy reportage and irresponsible commentary that sides with the terrorist TPLF currently fighting the Ethiopian government, Michael Rubin's article, "The U.S. should support the Tigray Defense Forces," stands out as one of the most appalling, ignorant and inflammatory pieces ever. According to Pierce, Rubin neglects to mention as he references the approaching second anniversary. The war began after the TPLF attacked federal military outpost over November 3 up to 4, 2020. This fact is not in dispute. The terrorist TPLF late official Sekiture Getachew openly bragged about his forces making a primitive strike on a regional television in Tigray November 14.
To launch a swift lightning attack on the larger force to cause disarray in the invading force and thwart the attack.
It is also worth noting that the hashtag Tigray Genocide debuted on Twitter November 4. This, according to Pierce, is still waiting for the TPLF apologists to explain how genocide magically came into existence on the very first day of the war. Pierce went on saying that he waited in vain to read any mention in Rubin's article of the child soldiers the TPLF used in this conflict, inadvertently revealed in photos by very Western media seeking to glorify the organization's fighters as underdogs. This is a clear international war crime, but did not find any mention of the scores of Tigrayans who fled the TPLF forces recruitment drives and other horrors documented meticulously by Professor Anne Fitzgerald, Canada's Basley School of International Affairs, and subsequently confirmed in Western media reports. Rubin cites drone strikes on the TPLF, the details of which are disputed by the Ethiopian Federal Forces. Nothing was mentioned about the TPLF's relentless looting and vicious destruction of hospitals, universities, and even museums in the Amhara and Afar regions. As well, Rubin should also be reminded that the UN's own internal documents implicate its staff in turning a blind eye to the TPLF's forced recruitment and even its assaulting and kidnapping UN workers as well as looting aid facilities. Why no mention of these crimes? He will no doubt fall back on the disingenuous ploy of claiming they have not been reported by the Western mainstream media outlets. It's also as plain as the nose of one's face that the TPLF stole 570,000 liters of fuel in tanker trucks from the World Food Programme, an act which is condemned by the Besley, the UN USAID chief Samantha Power, and the Bureau of African Affairs. Pierce finds it funny how Rubin left that event out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching ETV English News with the news. I am Binyam Gitana. Now step into another news. The Ministry of Education announced that the new curriculum set to be implemented nationwide from the 1st grade to 8th grade effective September 19, 2022. Zafu Abarra, head of Natural Science Curriculum Desk with the ministry, confirmed that the new curriculum has been developed to ensure quality education in Ethiopia. She revealed that the new curriculum will be implemented from 1st to 8th grade at the national level in the new academic year, which kicks off on Monday, 19 September 2022, all over the country. She added that the new curriculum for grade 9 and 10 will be implemented in selected schools in all regions. And finally, Dese Dalke, the Ethiopian ambassador in the Republic of Kenya, visited Chunchan city on Thursday. On the occasion, the ambassador visited the Korean War Memorial Museum downtown and laid a wreath at a memorial monument built for Ethiopian veterans remembering their participation during the Korean War. During his visit, Ambassador Dese Dalke held a courtesy meeting with the mayor of Chunchan city and discussed various issues. As Chunchan city is a sister city of Addis Ababa, the mayor agreed to continue cooperation between Addis Ababa and Chunchan city in a more strengthened and expanded manner. The ambassador also visited Chunchan Bioindustry Foundation, which works on biotechnology manufacturing and serves as a center for startups for innovators, and discussed transferring appropriate technologies for Ethiopian similar institution. Here are now a reminder of the top stories once again. The West and the US said to be colluding to undermine Ethiopia's peace efforts by siding with the TPLF. And Ethiopia rejects a statement by the EU spokesperson as selective vilification. You've been watching ETV English News with Anusam Binyam Gitana. Thank you for joining us and stay with us all the time, and goodbye for me now.